Legal notice, Town of Walpole, notice of intent, Conservation Commission, public hearing. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw.
Come closer.
Okay, thank you.
Notice hereby given the intent of David Wakefield for proposed construction of a residential subdivision, Nichols Pond Lane, road drainage, utilities, and grading located at A2 East Street. Plans are filed with the Conservation Commission Office. Public hearing on the above matter will be held in Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, September 27th, 2017, beginning at 7:15 p.m. All interested person requested to be present. Hearing is opened and continued. And we have a letter from the applicant. The applicant's engineer is dated November 2nd. On behalf of the applicant, Lewis Park Trust, we'd like to request your board continue the public hearing scheduled for November 8th for the above captioned project. We are currently in the review process with planning board and would like more time to allow any changes required through their review in the final plans. We request to continue hearing until December 13th, at time convenient with the board. Okay, what do we got for December 13th? We have nothing on, is that correct?
For our next meeting, I'm gonna assume so. There's nothing on the agenda.
Okay, so, suggest we, move this to December 13th at 7 p.m.
Right, and that's what they asked for the first hearing, next available
He
date.
didn't
so
say
we-
that, but,
Yeah, I think
just
that's what he
asked for-
wanted. I think I told him it was December.
for the next meeting, yeah, time-wise,
So 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Okay, someone make that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 500. So that's, that's 7. Okay. What's that?
This goes
This
in there
one?
too.
What's in here? Okay. Do you want to do anything else, or you want to take the time to review the minutes from the last meeing?
We have certificates of
It's
compliance.
up to you. We have a couple certificates and a couple extensions. So, cycle those.
Okay.
So we have, request for certificate of compliance for the Walpole Country Club, 233 Baker Street, DP 315109. That's the one that's, it's a pretty old, back in the early 80s, for their garage, maintenance garage. I did go out and take a site visit, and that everything was, looked according to the plan, so they're good to go.
So someone want to move
I'll
that?
move it.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Okay. And what else we got here?
Then we have a certificate of compliance request for the town of Walpole, Mill Pond Road. That would be the Turner's Pond Dam. BP 315-1084. That is complete.
Okay, someone want to move that?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500.
And then we have a request for a certificate of compliance for Wisteria Way, 23 Daylily Lane, DP 315-1068. It's a single-family house, and that is all complete, and we have an as-built plan.
So I'm gonna move that.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. What's Boulder Trail? That's still waiting?
So I'm gonna give you, these are all three of the certificates you just voted.
Yeah.
Boulder Trail, right, I'm still waiting for him to hand in his as-built plan.
When's the, is the time expiring soon?
Good question. I'm not sure. Have to check on
You
that.
wanna check that and just
Okay.
see what, how long he wants to put it off?
It's okay, while you're signing those, we have requests for extensions, 2 of them from the Walsh Brothers, one for 15 Daylily Lane, Lot 27, in the Wisteria 2 subdivision, 315-1070. It's an extension for a year to complete the work.
So wanna move that?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
And we have a request for an extension from the Walsh Brothers for 19 Daylily Lane, Lot 26, DP 315-1069 for a 1-year extension.
So we wanna move that?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500.
Okay, so these are the extensions.
Any checks in here that we're signing?
Checks, they'll be in the mail. Is this like really teeny, or is that just me? Teeny and crooked?
It is crooked, and it might be smaller. Maybe the photocopier is on diminish. Yeah.
You have some correspondence and a board comment.
Okay.
Minutes.
What do you got for, board comments? Wall Street? What's going on
We have one request for board comment from the ZBA for Wall Street Development, Burns Ave, a special permit with a slightly change in plan. Their plan was for 14 units, and they've gone down to 12 units, with also a little more buffer zone between the development and the residential area. The units are slightly larger, but they've gone from 14 to 12. That's what's before the zoning board. All the work, I have the plan if you want to look at it. All the work of the development, the units changing is all outside of the buffer zone in the riverfront area. So I don't think they would be required to refile or an amendment or anything with us. Maybe just provide the commission with a letter stating the changes.
Well, all right, we told them they need to file an amendment if they want to change their access.
Right, and that is within the jurisdiction of the commission.
Right, are they going forward, have they gone forward with that? Have we gotten anything?
Good question. I know that he's aware of it. I don't know if he's brought it in yet. I haven't seen it, so if it came in, I haven't seen it.
You just tell them we're anticipating a request for an amendment
Right.
for that subdivision,
So just to
And if
reflect
there's
any
this-
other changes on that plan.
and that they should reflect, those,
Okay.
any other changes that,
Yeah.
and that their particular request is out of our jurisdiction, or the changes are out of our are
Right.
not within our jurisdiction. Okay, so that's that. Ecotech at Eastover Road.
In the correspondence is a report from Ecotech on the replication area that was put in at the end of Eastover Road. There was two areas. There was one, replication area that was put in previously for the crossing, that wasn't really needed to be redone. And then there was another replication area for additionally widening the road a little bit. So both of those were put in by and observed by Ecotech, and that's what the report.
So it's just a report,
Request.
they're not asking for a certificate or anything?
Nope,
Okay.
just a report that was
Okay.
just recently put in, so it has to go through 2 growing seasons.
Okay,
Yeah, I was there a couple of weeks ago and was escorted through the property. They don't let you just walk around. And my observation is it needed some time to grow. Nothing was growing very well because of the drought. You know.
Right, they just planted it,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we'll have to see what it's like in the spring.
okay.
So you went down there to take a look to see what
Yeah.
was, how they were moving along?
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I went and tried to take a look. You can't get up to the site easily.
No, you
I just
can't.
was curious to see
Yeah,
what
yeah,
it looked like,
yeah.
because it's such a big production way back in the,
Yep,
where
Yeah,
you wouldn't
yeah.
expect
Right.
it.
And they have a gate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right. I'm sure they do.
And I agree with that because some construction sites, people steal everything
Oh,
and do
sure.
damage to
Yeah.
things that have been done, and so.
Okay. All right, it's 1:15. I guess we can do.
You ready for
Yeah.
first? Intense for.
Do we need to vote the meeting dates for next year?
Sure.
Okay.
I think you have to, but I think you probably usually do.
The meeting dates for last year, I think we all got a copy of it. Looked them over, the dates look good. Considers town meeting, so I think at this point, someone wants to make a motion to go with the meeting dates as, for 2018 as proposed.
I'll move that.
In a second, okay, media second. Any further discussion, all in favor? Aye, opposed, abstained, 5-0-0, okay. Town of Walpole notice of intent Conservation Commission public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act. Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw notice hereby given the intent of Richard Whittington, the construction of a single-family home with lawn, grading, and utilities within the 100-foot buffer zone and 25-foot no alteration zone located at 48 Emerald Way, Lot 7. Plans on file with the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing on the above matter will be held in Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, November 8th, 2017, beginning at 7:15 p.m. All interested person requested to be present. Time is now 7:16. Let's see what we have. Board of Health at its November 7th meeting voted unanimously to strongly oppose any construction within the buffer zone, and in particular Lot 8, and recommends that construction on that lot be resituated in order to avoid any other buffer zone. This is Lot 7, so we got that.
I'm sorry, what?
This is what.
This is
That's
references Lot 8, but it also, the reference is Lot 7, but it mentions Lot 8
Oh,
in there,
both.
so Lot 8.
Okay,
I assume we have that
yeah, that's next.
comment in Lot 8. Finance Department, everything's okay. Planning Board, is in receipt of your request for comments of reference filing. Please be advised there are no planning comments at this time. Town Engineer, let's see what's this one. Board of Appeals does not have any comment at this time on the above referenced matter. This is from the Town Engineer. If the design of the underground recharge system is based upon recharging the entire roof area, then there should be piping shown on the plan that will pick up all downspouts. Plan should include depth to seasonal high groundwater. The bottom system component should be minimum 2 feet above the seasonal high groundwater. Developer's engineer should ensure that the driveway is a minimum of 10 feet from the catch basin. It recommended that the erosion controls be extended up the northerly property line to prevent siltation into the adjacent lot during construction. Are you familiar with this letter?
We are not. In fact, we have not received any of the correspondence that you've read tonight.
Okay. All right, representing the applicant?
I am. For the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer with Strong Point Engineering, here tonight representing Whitman Homes on the Ross Commons subdivision.
All right, these are comments that come back to us. When were these? Do we normally
I'm
send
sorry?
them copies, or?
The town engineer report, it depends, I'm never sure when she sends them out to the applicant or when we send them out to the applicant, but,
We did not receive those, but I can certainly, I
I'll
think
certainly get you a copy.
yeah, I can get a copy, and I get the gist of what her comments are. I'm glad to discuss any of them here tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I feel that we are able to proceed on my end.
Okay. And we see, do we have cards?
We do have green cards. These are for the notification for 7 and 8. They went out in the same package, so they all have the same notification, but there was a copy of the abutters notice submitted with our notices of intent.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, as I mentioned, for the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer, Strong Point Engineering Solutions. Here tonight, representing the Ross Commons subdivision, which I know this commission is very well familiar with. The order of conditions for this project issued, I wanna say, first part of 2016, don't quote me, did have a condition that basically says that any lot that may have a buffer zone impact is required to come back from an individual filing, at the very least for confirmatory purposes, so whether that be a notice of intent or a request for determination, we have to come back in some form. I know right now on the docket, we're here for lot number 7. We are here for 2 NOIs tonight and 2 RDAs. So to focus on number 7 for the time being, there is, in the back portion of the lot, there is some bordering vegetated wetland. There is obviously the buffer zone on the lot as well. At the time that the subdivision was proposed, there were no individual lot disturbances and designs included in that plan set and in that approval, but obviously the intent was always that single-family homes would be developed on these. I think that was well understood. So the proposal that we have tonight on Lot 7, pretty modest with regard to buffer zone impacts. A small corner of the back of the house and about half of the deck off of the back of the house are located within the 100-foot buffer zone. Outside of that, everything else, all the impervious surfaces are outside of jurisdictional areas. The only thing that's happening within the jurisdictional areas beside the house is just a little bit of clearing and grading for the backyard. The closest clearing that we have to a BBW is in the, I will say, the northern portion of the lot right on the northern property line, which is about 55 feet from the BBW. Moving south to the southern portion, you can see the limit of clearing kind of comes outside of the buffer zone area. There's also a condition in the approvals that requires that the rooftop from the houses be infiltrated. We have provided a rooftop infiltration design per the engineer's comments that you mentioned. It is intended to infiltrate runoff from the entire roof, so we can add a manifold system to the house to show that that is in fact the intention. There was also a comment about the erosion control barrier in her report. She recommends, bending it along this property line to the north. The reason that it is not shown that way on this plan is because it's intended to actually continue with the limit of work for Lot 8. It's proposed, the intention at this time is that those lots will be cleared and developed simultaneously to limit disturbances. Having had some correspondence with your agent prior to the meeting tonight too, she did mention that the commission seems to be favoring the composting tubes now rather than the straw wattles. I tend to agree with you. And I have discussed this with my client, and they don't have an issue with us making that change as well if that's what the commission desires. So all in all on this one, I think it keeps well in accord with the intent of the subdivision plans and with the Conservation Commission's regulations.
Good. Landis?
Yep. Just, first of all, I always read the engineer's comments, and if there's something that feel needs to be passed on, I do that as well. So I thought all of her comments could be easily addressed.
Sure.
I did bring up the compost sock, as well as the possibility, if the commission wanted, of the no alteration plaques on the border of the 25-foot no alteration area. Other than that, I don't have any other comments.
Okay. Emilio?
No, I didn't have any others. The plaques, the locations noted, I didn't notice them on the plan.
No, because we discussed it after he submitted the plan, and I figured if the commission had any other little tweaks that he would do it afterwards. But they are aware that we could
Okay,
often
that's all.
recommend them.
That's all I've got.
You are aware, and I should have mentioned that. I have discussed that with my client, the applicant as well, and they've agreed to add those at the commission's request as well. So I think we're in good standing on both of those items.
Okay. Roger?
No.
Betsy?
No.
No? Is the intention to clear the whole lot up to the 25-foot no-touch zone?
It is not. In fact, we had originally submitted a plan that did show a clearing up to the 25-foot no-touch zone. And then we actually submitted a modification to that plan a few weeks later that pulled it back about at least 30 feet beyond that. So the closest clearing that we're proposing now on this lot is 55 feet from the BBW.
Well, I guess I'm not understanding, because I don't see a limit of work here.
The plan that you have in front of you
Yeah.
is actually the first plan that we submitted. It is not the revised plan that shows the revised limit of clearing. So the first plan that we submitted,
Eric, when did you submit the revised plan?
we sent those in with the RDA. And there was a cover letter that explained as well what the differences in the clearing were. I can walk through it now if something got lost in the mail.
Something got lost along the way.
Okay, well, I apologize. So let me just back up for a moment. When we had first submitted the notice of intent for this lot, we had proposed to clear right up to the 25-foot buffer zone, which is located right here, okay? We took another look at that after we had submitted, kind of looked at the lots adjacent to it and said, well, we don't need to clear that far back. So we submitted an update to the notice of intent with a cover letter that I have and I can leave you a copy of. And we took that limit of clearing and we moved it up here. So the closest point to the BBW is 55 feet away here, and the furthest point from the BBW is at 100 feet from the BBW here. Okay, so what that results in, from what we had originally submitted, which is in front of you now, and it's the only change to these plans, is 70% less clearing in the buffer zone than what we had originally proposed. So if anything, that change is a betterment to the plan that we had led with and then kind of thought better of as we moved forward. And if need be, this plan is stamped, and I do have.
What's the date on the revised plan?
The revision date is 10/18, and the revision note is limit of clearing. And for that matter, this plan is stamped. I'd be glad to leave it as a record copy tonight. I apologize
No,
for any
no.
oversight. I think we just had a lot of
that's
things
okay.
shuffled around.
If it came in, yeah, I'm not sure what happened to it, but we'll.
Well, my comment is, it makes a big difference in my
Sure.
impression of the project, the fact that you're not clearing and grubbing the whole thing, you know, it makes a big difference here.
Sure. So the difference is you look through here, we had originally proposed here. What we're proposing currently is we're putting all of this back in and basically leaving it untouched. So we're only going to clear to this line that you see here, which, as I mentioned, results in a 70% reduction in the buffer zone clearing. So I think that's a positive improvement.
Anything else, Al?
No, that's,
Just a question, your sewer line comes out and makes a bend and goes across under the driveway and it makes another bend,
That's correct.
as opposed to coming straight out and going into the sewer line?
The reason for that is that the sewer stub locations have already been installed for the sewer and water services, and they were installed per the location given on the subdivision plans. Those were kind of premature in the sense that the house designs weren't done at that time. So now we're just kind of connecting the dots between what's there on the street and where we need it to get to.
So the stubs are in, is
The
what you're
stubs are in,
saying? Very
correct.
good. All right. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Please
yes, thank
identify yourself for the record.
I'm sorry? Yes. Do I need to push this or just talk? Okay. All right, my name is Bill Marazzi. I live at 20 Covey Road,
Copy.
which is our property that's, will invade, yeah, we both will connect onto the wetlands,
Gotcha.
exactly.
Sure, sure.
So initially, when I saw the possibility that you were extending into the wetlands, obviously being on the other side of them, I was concerned about exactly what you just discussed. How far are you going into the wetlands, or, and if I understand, because I'm not one who, this is not my thing, but the dotted line is what you consider the wetlands, the buffers? Well, okay.
Yes, the line here that has the wetland flags delineated, that's the wetland line.
Mhm.
This, the shorter dotted lines would be the 25-foot no-touch buffer.
Yep.
And then the 100-foot buffer comes out to here, they're the bigger, quote-unquote, dotted lines.
Okay, so,
Sure.
so when the letter I have, this says you were going in, deeper into the wetlands, when actually what you're saying now, you're not going in?
We're not going as deep as we had originally proposed to in that filing.
And this is in reference to Lot 8, because I've actually walked, literally in my backyard, what's all happening. And I walked the 3 different, so this is in reference to Lot 8.
This is 7.
This is 7.
This is 7. 8, I believe, is next on the agenda.
Okay, all right. And then then Lot 8 is that far, much farther away from me.
Right, that's
Okay,
correct.
but now how does the other 2 lots, Lot 6 and Lot 5?
So as you're looking at the plan here, this one's 7.
I may be ahead of myself. Should I stop now? I mean, I think I've answered.
We will take each lot as it comes, but just to clarify the record,
Yeah.
the proposal was never to work in the wetlands. That notification form is a little confusing because it gives all the scenarios. It says
Exactly.
if you're gonna work in the wetland but they were always just proposing to work in the buffer zone.
In the buffer zone?
Yes,
Okay.
right, so this is the plan here, the wetlands is here.
And my property is over here. That's the key. Obviously, I'm concerned both for the wetlands and how far into the wetlands you're going, because I live on the wetlands and, I do see animals coming through there all the time and deer and so forth. And don't want anything to take away from that.
So on this particular lot, the closest clearing disturbance to the property line, which I believe this is your property over here
Yes.
from what you're telling me,
Mhm.
the closest that we're cutting trees to the property line on this particular lot is roughly, I want to say 60 to 65 feet. So
Okay.
we're staying well outside of the wetland and well off the property line. So there'll still be a significant tree buffer there between you and the clearing and between the clearing and the
The
wetland.
wetlands,
Yes,
exactly.
that's right.
Okay, from what I can, I didn't understand this letter, but that basically, okay.
Okay.
As a concerned citizen and resident, I'm comfortable now with how you've moved it that way.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, someone make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500. Okay. So we need to reference the revised plan. Did you get the date?
Yeah, it was 10/18/17.
That's correct. And if you'd like, Landis, I can leave a copy of this plan before I go tonight for a record copy. They are stamped.
Sure, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can pack down the other
It
ones.
happens.
Now, was that, did we address Maggie's questions?
Yeah, yes, the erosion control is not an issue, the drain leaders, she just wanted to make sure that all the drain was going to
Right.
the infiltration units, and usually that's reflected on the as-built,
Okay.
exactly where they are located
Yeah.
and where it's coming from.
And the driveways will minimum of 10 feet from the catch basin, wherever.
The driveway,
The driveway.
concern with the
We
driveway.
can be certain that it is.
Okay.
In fact, I know that she also has a sign-off space on the building permit application, so
Okay.
one way or another, we have to address those comments.
Okay. And you can get a copy of, this will probably be similar comments on the other lots. Okay.
So we did get an update on the other lot.
We did send in an update on Lot 8 as well.
Yeah.
We
but
sent them together. Oh, do you have that one
I
in your
have an
package?
update for this next one, I think.
If not, I can walk us through that one as well.
All right, let's
This is
finish this one up.
26.
I have a 9/26 data.
No, oh,
That's September.
oh,
We need a
just 10/18.
So,
motion for the order of conditions.
So moved.
so
Us.
did you, so the plan of record, which is gonna be the 10/18, which takes the clearing further away from the wetlands line, do you still want plaques or?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
plaques.
yeah, we should have the plaques.
So at the 25-foot no alteration area, so they'd essentially be kind of in the woods.
Yeah,
I was thinking that if they wanted to make the backyard bigger, they'd have to come back before
They
us.
do.
So, and we don't usually have people put plaques just where they happen to have stopped their yard. We do put them all on the 25-foot.
yeah, unless we wanted more than 25 feet, but I don't know that there's anything in this case that would suggest that we do more than our normal 25 feet.
Right, I think in the Ross Commons, we have in the area of the vernal pool, but not in the other.
I'm just thinking, sometimes people have a tendency to dump leaves in the woods and, eventually make a trail all the way back to dump leaves. And
Yeah, I think it makes sense to
So-
do it now.
So, yeah, so we're plaques on the 25-foot no disturb line, right?
mhm.
Is that what we're saying?
Yep.
Okay, so
Yes.
plaques,
So,
probably one on each property line and one in the middle. And what's the distance across there?
Roughly from here to here, we're looking at, this back line would be 173
No
feet.
revisions.
So that's probably 150-ish.
150, so, yeah, all right, one in the middle should be adequate. All right, someone make that a motion for the order?
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
I meant for this next one, we've got a revision.
We've got
Oh, you need a signature page, yep.
This is this one, this is
Lot
number
7?
52.
we're on lot 7, okay?
This is lot 8. No, this is lot 7.
Stone retaining wall.
This is the next one, lot 8. You ready?
Yep.
Town of Walpole, notice of intent, Conservation Commission, public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act. Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw, notice is hereby given the intent of Richard Whittington, construction of a single-family home with lawn grading and utilities within the 100-foot buffer zone and 25-foot no alteration zone located 52 Emerald Way, Lot 8. Plans on file with the Conservation Commission, office, public hearing. The above matter will be held Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, November 8th, 2017, beginning 7:30 p.m. All interested person requested to be present. Time is now 7:37. And representing the applicant,
For the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer, Strong Point Engineering Solutions, representing the Ross Commons subdivision project on behalf of Whitman Homes.
for the record, as a finance committee is okay. This is from the planning board. Receipt of your request for comments, the above filing. Please be advised, no planning comments at this time. Let's see. From the zoning board, does not have any comments at this time on the reference matter. From the engineering department, if the design of the underground recharge system is based on recharging the entire roof area, then there should be piping shown on the plan that will pick up all downspouts. Plan should include depth to seasonal high groundwater. The bottom system component should be minimum 2 feet above the seasonal high groundwater. Again, if you want copies,
That'd be great.
get that now. Let's see, we are looking, what do we got here? What date should we be looking at?
The revision date on this plan is also 10/18/17.
Okay, we've got,
Originally submitted on 9/26. Don't have the revision, I can, I can look.
We do have it, it's
the smaller
clipped to
plan,
the
Jack.
front of your booklet.
It's not the larger
So
plan.
it's not small, but it's readable.
Is that what they were, small?
Possible that we gave smaller copies for the commission on that one.
It says limit of clearing 1018.
Yeah, that's the right plan,
So-
that's correct.
not
The
on
larger
this
one is
one.
in September, so that's not the one.
Right, so that's why we've got these little ones.
And again, I can walk through what the difference is between the two, pretty easily.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so, this one, very similar to the last one, lot 7 is here and lot 8 is here. Similar proposal, still a single-family home, still about the same size. We're still proposing the same erosion controls. We have a rooftop infiltration system that again is intended to take the entire rooftop, which is a condition of the approval. The primary difference with this one from the last one is it's kind of a crime of geometry. What you can see here is on lot 7, the wetland boundary is staying very close to the rear of the lot, where when we come to lot 8, that wetland boundary starts to kind of hook eastward a little bit, closer to the proposed road. So what it results in is we do have a little bit more of the house in this wetland buffer than we did on lot 7. Still, the closest point of the house is still more than 75 feet from the boundary of the wetland. In this case, in order to get a adequate backyard, a portion of our clearing is proposed up to the 25-foot no-touch. The original plan that we had sent, again, was proposed clearing to the 25-foot no-touch through the entirety of the lot. We've since revised that to tie it in better with what we're proposing on lot 7. We've moved it on the southern side of the lot further away. So the closest limit of clearing is still along the 25. At this point here at the southern side, we come out to the 50, and we're giving back some of what we were originally proposing to disturb, which is going to result in about 15% less clearing than what we had originally proposed in the buffer, which is again not as substantial as lot 7, but a positive improvement, I think. Just another quick thing to note, in order to keep some of the grading out of that buffer zone, we are proposing a small stone retaining wall along the limit of clearing in the back here. No more than 2 feet high, but I find that they are very good to kind of give the homeowners an idea. Well, homeowners typically don't go further than that with their clearing. They come to the end of their wall and they stop right there. So it provides somewhat of a permanent barrier for future clearing on that lot. So that's the generalities of it. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, Landis?
Pretty much the same comments as the previous lot 7, in regards to the no alteration plaques and the erosion control upgrade.
And again, we have no issue with that.
And then just as far as the engineer's comments.
Okay. Emilio?
No, other than plaques, I have nothing else.
Roger?
Well, I think the plaque and they should be come up to where the wall is. So people would know that they wouldn't, shouldn't be going beyond that point.
Well, the last one, we did it to the, and then 25-foot no disturb line. So it would,
Well, that's, the wall is further away then, but the wall is to,
You have one here already, so you
Yeah.
have one here and then one there.
There's a triangle there that,
okay, we've got one on the property line at the 25-foot no disturb. If you look at the southerly on the property line for lot 8, or was it lot 7? Which one is which?
Lot 7, we would
7.
have one.
You
in
got
this
one there.
location right here.
So you put the middle one slightly less than middle on the wall.
well, as long as we're on the 25-foot line. But I was thinking that maybe that there's a gradient drop on the 2-foot high wall.
On the wall. So this would be the high side, this would be the low side.
Where's the rock line?
The wall is coming right along the limit of clearing here. So it actually starts at the 25-foot no-touch buffer, and then it kicks out to, I'll say, 40-foot plus or minus at its furthest point away. And we would have another point here, another plaque here on lot 7. So if we had one at the 25 here and one at the 25 at the boundary of lot 7, I think if we put one, say, midpoint on the wall, it wouldn't be quite on the 25, but it would create a straight line for clearing. Might make some sense.
Maybe that'd be
Is
better.
that all right?
Sure.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? No. Betsy?
Okay, no.
Al?
Tell me about this wall.
Just a small field stone wall. There's certainly no shortage of rock on the site, so we might as well take advantage of it where we need to. Thought it was a good feature to build in so that, again, it discourages the eventual homeowner from going past that point with tree clearing or lawn clearing or whatever it is. This tall, just intended to help blend the grade in a little bit better, and that's all.
Then why not do it on all the lots? I mean, cause we were just sort of thinking about the previous lot and they cleared to this amount, not further. Why this lot and not any of the others?
This lot lent itself well to the wall for the grading requirements. We simply didn't need it on the other lots, which is why it wasn't proposed on those.
So this wall is just an informal, place some stones at the,
Nothing structural, nothing,
Okay.
nothing super fancy or that needs to be designed or
so
engineered.
you don't need to dig a trench and
No.
put a foundation and,
No, more of a
Okay.
landscape
Okay.
feature than anything, I
Okay.
think.
fine.
Okay, anybody in the audience have any questions or comments, please identify yourself for the record.
Yes, once again, Bill Marazzi, on, lives at 20 Covey Road. I'm going back to this concept of plaques, it's new to me, so can you show me again where you're gonna put the plaques on this, lot 8 again?
So my presumption would be on lot 7, we put them along the 25-foot.
Right.
We put one on each property line and then one in the middle at the 25-foot. So if we follow that pattern here, we would have one at the 25-foot on the property line here, one at the intersection of the 25-foot and the property line here. And then in order to just draw a straight line between those two and address Mr. Turner's concerns, I would say we put another one sort of at the inflection point of the limit of clearing here, which is a little bit off the 25-foot, probably looks like the 30 or 35-foot buffer zone there.
And these plaques would tell the homeowner of these properties that they could not go beyond these plaques?
No clearing beyond this point type of
Okay,
thing.
but then, on lot 7, you pushed that, area this far, this much closer to the home,
Mhm.
correct?
Mhm.
But there's nothing other, but they could still, are you saying they could still clear that area up to that plaque?
They could clear up to the plaque, but if they did, that is all area that's within the 100-foot buffer zone. So they would, even though the plaque is there, they would still need to come back to this commission to file and get permission from them if they wanted to continue their clearing beyond the point that's approved tonight. So the plaques are more so, a bell should go off when you see them that says, hey, don't go any further here, don't dump your leaves in here, don't do anything silly like that. But if anybody wanted to clear, alter land, cut down trees beyond what the limit of clearing approved is tonight, even though it's outside of that 25-foot buffer, they would have to come get permission from the
So
commission.
as a homeowner, again, buffering all this area, how would the homeowner, I'm more concerned about lot 7, because that really is right there. How would that homeowner know, he knows where the plaque is, and he knows, I'm assuming he would understand they can't go beyond that, because that's the wetlands, correct? But that area that buffer, I guess I'm not using the right terms, how would he know not to go into that area? I mean, who would,
How would he know that he needed to come back here and get
Exactly.
permission?
Other than maybe me on the other side going, what are you doing?
Well, most
You
of
know?
the time in a situation like this, the developers, when they convey a house, will notify the owner that, look, this is what you're allowed to do, this is how far you can clear, anything beyond that, you're subject to Conservation Commission jurisdiction. For instance, these houses right now are pre-sold. The buyers of these houses are aware of exactly what the house looks like, what their yard is, what we're proposing their yard to look like, and things like that. So they should be notified. Every citizen has their own burden of proof to kind of know the rules and do what they're supposed to do. And if they don't, they're subject to enforcement action by the commission, and replications and fines and fees and things like that.
Right, and just that, this is one of the reasons why we put a commission list under the subdivision order of conditions, certain lots that have wetlands on, that they have to come back and have an individual filing. Once this process is commenced and the commission issues their order of conditions, which is the permit, it gets recorded at the registry of deeds. So and is supposed to be presented to the home buyer at the closing.
It is, okay, because interesting, I've moved,
And touch the deed.
I bring this up because I moved to my home 25 years ago, and these wetlands have been there ever since I've obviously been there. I wanted to go, what I found out, into the wetlands, I didn't know at the time, I just bought the house and moved in. That's when I was informed about, and that's something that they would become aware of, that you can't do this unless you come in front of the conservation. That's obviously my biggest concern. If they're any like a homeowner like I am, I didn't know at the time, but that's
Right.
important to
And in
me.
this particular subdivision, there'll be a homeowners association.
I believe there's gonna be a
Correct.
homeowners association here too, which has their own bylaws, and it may very well say in there, if anybody wants to do anything, They need permission from the homeowners and the town and everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we make a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, 500. Order with the plaques, and we've got the revised plan date. Okay, so we'll make that a motion for the order.
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, nay, 500. Okay, so we got something else to sign here. This is, lot
This is lot 8.
8. Lot 6. Town of Walpole Conservation Commission request for determination of applicability. According to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw notice hereby given the intent of Richard Whittington. Determine that the proposed single-family dwellings with lawn grading and utilities at 40 Lot 5 and 44 at Lot 6, Emerald Way, Walpole falls under the jurisdiction of the Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Act, Town of Walpole Wetlands Bylaw. Plans on file with the Conservation Commission Office. Conservation Commission meeting will be held Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, November 8th, 2017, 7:45 and 7:50 PM. All interested persons requested to be present. Time is now 7:54. This is from the Board of Health, that its November 7th meeting voted they do not have comment regarding request for determination. Finance Department, everything's okay. Town Engineer. Comment is receipt of RDA plan for both site, had no comments to make on the application as presented. So, representing the applicant,
For the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer, Strong Point Engineering Solutions, representing the Ross Commons subdivision on behalf of Whitman Homes.
do we have cards for this?
There was no abutter notification required for the RDA.
And the plan we're looking at is dated,
The plan you're looking at is dated 10/18 with no revision date.
okay?
So we've only submitted one copy of the plans for the RDA.
You have plans.
I have the right plan.
Anybody want a larger one?
No, it's good.
Go ahead.
As we had mentioned early on, the order of conditions for the project states that certain lots that may or may not have buffer zone potential impacts need to come before the commission for a conformatory filing, at least. And that's what we're here for on this lot. This is lot 5. There is no work being proposed within the buffer zone, but there is buffer zone on the lot. All of,
Lot 6.
oh, we're on lot 6. Same story. There is buffer zone on the lot. There is actually BBW on the lot as well. We have the benefit on this lot just by geometry. This one's very deep in the, BBW is located in the back corner. So we are able to keep all of our proposed disturbances on lot 6 outside of the 100-foot buffer zone and therefore outside of jurisdictional areas. So I believe that this filing is seen more as a notification of our intent not to go in the buffer zone than anything else.
Okay, Landis?
I agree. They came forward with building permits and pulled the order of conditions, and this had been listed as at least requiring a request for determination, just to verify that all the work does doesn't require filing of a notice of intent. All the work is outside of the buffer zone. It's a negative determination.
Okay. We want plaques on the, where's the 25-foot? Put the plaques on the 25-foot. Continue them on, these abut the other properties, right? So there'll
They
be
do.
one.
Lot 7 is here, so we would already have one in this corner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
put one on the other property line.
We can agree to that, sure.
Okay. Media? Roger? Betsy?
No.
Al?
Change the straw to the compost socks,
We agree to that as well.
and the same for the recharge from the roof, you know, so that it's consistent throughout the whole place.
Okay, anyone in the audience have any questions or comments, please identify yourself for the record. Okay, so we'll make a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. Negative. 3 with the
3.
condition of the plaques, anything else? And the erosion controls are shown. All right, so someone makes that a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Okay, so this is,
Lot 6.
is the next one?
Yep.
Town of Walpole Conservation Commission request for determination applicability. According to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw, knows hereby given the intent of Richard Whittington, determine if the proposed single-family dwellings with lawn grading and utilities at 40 Lot 5 and 44 Lot 6, Emerald Way, Walpole, falls under the jurisdiction of Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Walpole Wetlands Bylaw. Plans are on file with the Conservation Commission office. Conservation Commission meeting will be held Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, November 8th, 2017 at 7:45 and 7:50 PM. All interested person requested to be present. Time is now 8 o'clock. Okay. Finance Department, everything's okay. Town engineer, the following comments. Plan indicates that the applicant is proposing to install their driveway within the sewer easement and directly over the sewer main. They should be made aware that it may be necessary at some future time to excavate for this sewer and that the driveway may be disturbed. Okay, the plan we're looking at is dated,
It is dated 10/18/17 with no revision date.
okay? And representing the applicant.
For the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer with Strong Point Engineering, here tonight representing the Ross Common subdivision on behalf of Whitman Homes.
Okay. Go ahead.
This one, very much the same story as the last one. Another one of the lots that was identified in the order of conditions for the projects is needing a confirmatory filing. Again, all of the proposed work is kept outside of the 100-foot buffer zone on this lot. There is no BBW on this lot, only probably about 50 feet worth of the outer 100-foot buffer zone, and we are able to stay outside of it. On this one in particular, there is no 25-foot buffer zone on the lot, so I don't know that there's a need for plaques. But we will be glad to be consistent with the remainder of the site and switch from the straw wattle to the compost tube, just to keep that going.
Okay. Landis?
No further comments on this particular lot. Again, there's just a portion of the 100-foot buffer on the lot. That's why they had to file.
Okay. Emilio?
All set.
Roger? Betsy?
Is the tree line the thing that's in very light gray?
That is the existing tree line, so there is actually a small portion of the outer 100-foot buffer that in the existing condition was cleared.
So it's already a field?
That's already a field. We're still gonna stay out of it.
Okay.
That's where the sewer goes over to Walden Drive.
Yeah, the sewer easement comes down this side and then cuts across the open space area back here. And that sewer work has already been completed.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there anything else, Betsy?
That's it.
Al?
Same thing with the roof recharge, same comment as all the others.
Okay. Okay. So we'll make a motion to close. Oh, anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? Please identify yourself for the record. Okay. So we'll make a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Oh, I'm
Aye.
sorry, I did second that.
Okay, yeah, I heard you.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've just been doing A and B though.
Okay.
Very quiet if I'm at the end of the table.
You voted.
Keeps things
You
moving.
got the vote?
I did.
5-0-0.
Yeah.
Okay. Negative what?
3.
So make that a motion, -3, and
Corrected.
do we have any conditions, or just?
Yeah,
Just the silt,
The
the
roof
silt,
water.
the compost
Roof
sock
water.
and the
Yeah,
roof
roof
water.
water.
-3 with conditions. Someone move that?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, abstained, 5-0-0. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Before I go, Landis, if you'd like, these are the stamp plans for 7 and 8.
Okay,
I can
great.
leave them with you for the
Yeah.
record.
Yeah, I have a feeling they must have just got mixed up with the determination plans and maybe went out
I'm sure they
somewhere
did,
else.
yeah. I
So
think
we'll take a look.
I think we submitted them all on the same day, so.
Okay, all right,
Yeah, well done, someone.
thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Eric, are you the only engineer for this company, Strong Point?
I am the owner and the head engineer for the company.
Oh, okay.
We do have a few engineers on our staff.
Okay. That answers my question.
Thank you very much.
He's very thorough. It's nice.
I used to work on Manley Street at 208.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Where's that now?
that's Shawmut. It's on,
Okay.
it's on the left going towards Brockton, you know.
Sure. So we are, you know where the pond is, where that funny looking cow buffalo thing lives? Right out front of the John Deere tractor store?
Yeah.
Right across from there.
Oh, is
You
that
gotta
right?
Go feed the cow at lunch factory, get a lot of scraps.
Nice.
It's a good area.
Okay.
Let's see.
Moving along, we have another RDA for 17 Rosemary. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Conservation Commission request for determination of applicability in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Wetlands Protection Act, Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Notice hereby given the intent of Mike Corey, determine whether removing the existing deck and constructing a replacement deck located at 17 Rosemary Lane, Walpole, subject to Wetlands Protection Act, Town of Walpole Wetlands Bylaw. Plans are filed with the Conservation Commission office. Conservation Commission meeting will be held Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, room 112, November 8th, 2017, 7:55 PM. All interested person request to be present. Time is now 8:07. Okay.
I'm not sure of your protocol. Is the applicant here? I'm the representative.
Okay, let me just read what we have here, and then you can introduce yourself. Board of Health, November 7th meeting. Voted unanimously, they have no concerns regarding requests for determination. Finance Department is okay. Town Engineer, receipt of the RDA plan for the above site. Following comment is made. It is recommended that the appropriate erosion controls be shown on the plans and installed. So, representing the applicant?
Yeah, I am. Do I need a microphone?
Yes.
Yes.
please, yeah, use the-
Hi, I'm Debbie Anderson. I'm the wetlands consultant, and I'm here representing the applicant, Michael Corey, who is the owner and applicant, and we also have the builder with us tonight, Robert Way Construction. I have, do you want the green card, Landis, for the?
Yes, please.
For DEP?
Thank you.
I received this from the builder after we had filed, but it's just kind of a summary of the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There you are. Thank you. I delineated the bordering vegetated wetlands back in September, which is essentially along the existing limit of lawn. The project before you is a reconstruction of a deck and stairway, which are leaking and causing water damage within the house. So the builder is hoping to reconstruct. They have to take out the deck and the roofing material, stairs, and reconstruct it properly to prevent the leaking once they complete fixing the damage inside the house. And as part of that, they are hoping to expand the deck slightly by 96 square feet. They will need to, are you using sonotubes to? Okay. And they will have to place a couple sonotubes in order to expand the deck, and they're reconfiguring the stairs as well. The area is currently lawn. They would not need to remove any trees for the proposed project. A portion of the existing deck is within the 25-foot buffer zone, so they would have to stay within the 25-foot buffer zone for the project. We are proposing to use erosion controls, which end up approximately 5 feet from the boundary of the wetland. The proposed deck at its closest point would be approximately 11 feet from the wetland line. So that is our project. I don't have a big plan. I only have the little plan, so hopefully you can follow along on that. There isn't too much on it, so.
Okay. Landis?
Yep, so depending on how far decks are away from the wetlands, usually they don't file because all they're doing is digging sonotubes and building a deck. But because of the deck was so close to the wetlands line needs to be verified on a plan, that's why they're filing the request for determination. But I don't feel that building a deck is gonna impact or alter the wetlands as long as we have a plan and we know that the wetlands is there and there's a erosion control being put in during the construction of the removal of the stairs and then the reconstruction of the deck. So I just wanted to explain that, why usually property owners are allowed to build decks without filing
Well, they're
notice of
replacing
intents.
it.
Yeah, right, they're taking it out and then they're replacing
Yeah.
it.
But
I feel with the erosion control, on plan and the delineation of the wetlands, so they know where the wetlands are and the limit of work, that it shouldn't require a notice of intent.
It's just a little bit closer, the new deck is a little bit closer to the wetlands than the existing, right?
It is a little bit closer, yes.
Yeah, 11 feet. It's 11 feet from the wetlands line.
11 feet from the edge of the wetlands.
Yep.
Yeah, there's not much back there.
Is there any sort of, right now, is there any sort of boundary or delineation of I mean, as in, well, it's only 11 feet, so.
Are there
I mean, at the edge of the wetland, what is
plaques
it?
or anything like that?
Yeah, there's nothing, right?
No,
There
it's
aren't,
at the
it's
edge of
pretty thick,
the lawn.
and there's multiflora rows and all kinds of unfriendlies. I think that most people wouldn't venture back there, for any reason.
Right, it's very distinct where the lawn ends and the
Mhm.
vegetation begins.
Okay. That's it.
Roger?
This is just post going in, there's no foundation, just replacing the post?
That's correct.
Okay.
Anything else? Betsy?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. You're replacing a pre-existing deck. So, yep.
Al?
Is Mr. Corey here? My only concern is that during the demolition or the digging of the holes for the sonotubes, that none of this material ends up in the wetland or anywhere else where it shouldn't be. That's my only concern. So if you can make sure you keep an eye on the contractors that are doing your work to keep the demolition materials where they're supposed to go, and the soil from the holes where you put the new sonotubes out of the wetland, I'm happy.
Okay. Anyone in the audience, questions or comments? Okay, someone make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Items, what do we got here?
Negative.
Thank you.
Negative three, thank you. A negative three, with the,
Wait a minute, they need to vote and then we'll be done.
negative three with the conditions, someone make that a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 5-0-0.
Okay,
Okay.
so it's a negative 3, which will be processed in the office and then sent out to the homeowner? Is that? You wanna come back in with a building permit? Go, yeah. Right, I think that's the building permit I got held up for this, right, if I remember correctly. Yeah, just come in tomorrow and I'll sign off on it.
Is that paperwork?
Paperwork.
This is the,
Thank you.
thank you.
Doing good?
What?
Said we're doing
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Thank you. It's fun.
Town of Walpole Conservation Commission, notice of intent, public hearing. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw, notice hereby given the intent, Town of Walpole Trails Committee for the construction of a boardwalk and observation deck located in Town Forest to Jarvis Farm, Assessors Map 48, Lot 10. Plans are filed at Conservation Commission Office. Public hearing, the above matter will be held Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, Room 112, November 8th, 2017, beginning at 8 p.m. All interested persons request to be present. Time is now 8:15. And let's see what we have here. Board of Health, that they have no concerns. This notice of intent. Town engineer, department has no comments to make on the application as presented. Zoning board has any comments at this time. Okay, planning board. We voted, moved, seconded 400 to recommend that the project look nicer than the pictures presented for comment. We'll take that as presented. Okay. Representing the applicant. What the hell was that all about?
Gary, you have to use the microphone when you're speaking so that they can hear you in recording land.
You wanna bring that up? Come up here, so we can, see it.
Stand there with the microphone.
Hello, folks. How are you tonight?
Introduce yourself for the record, please.
My name is Gary Riggett. I am the chairman of the Trails Committee. With me tonight is Joe Grant, who will be one of the volunteer assistants helping with construction on the boardwalk. So what I have here tonight is something that is actually left over from Jarvis Harvest a couple weeks ago. So we won a recreational trails program, an RTP grant, to fund this project. And in the top picture, there is a few of us from town with the Lieutenant Governor and with the Commissioner of the DCR. And it's myself, my wife, Joe Grant, Bob LeBlanc, Lieutenant Governor. It was a great day. And below is an aerial view of where the boardwalk will be located exactly. And as you can see, I drew in some of the trails from Jarvis Farm that I GPS'd. The idea being just to show that the trail to the boardwalk will be part of an existing network of trails that's already in place. And then on the town forest side of the boardwalk, there's an extensive network of trails. There is a little bit over 6 miles of trail in the town forest, including the Bay Circuit Trail. So the boardwalk will link the Jarvis Farm trail network to the town forest network, and specifically it'll connect with the Bay Circuit Trail. So for bearings, we have Washington Street here, South Street with that small parking lot that's across from 673 South Street. There's a gate there. Folks may have seen it. There's some signs when we did a logging project a few years ago. And then Morningside Drive, and of course the pond for Jarvis Farm is over here. So you may ask, if the intent is to link Jarvis Farm with the town forest, why not have this boardwalk be a little bit closer to the center of activity, the ball fields specifically at Jarvis Farm? And although it's hard to see in this picture, that was initially my intent. And when I looked for a path from the playing field area to to the town forest, it was absolutely impenetrable. It was like a mangrove. I couldn't even get through there, just even to get a trail started. So I'm like, well, this isn't gonna work. I need to look at something else. So the shortest and easiest crossing that we found is actually a little bit closer to Route 1, down towards Jump Tracks. But unfortunately, when I got home and downloaded my GPS data, that was on Town of Sharon property. That would have been only a crossing of about 50 feet, mostly dry. The span across the actual water would have only been about maybe 30 feet, with 10 feet on either side of approach. So this was the best of the rest.
What street was that on in Sharon? Or was,
This is, it's real hard to see, but these buildings in the corner are Jump Tracks.
oh,
And let me see.
oh, that's okay, I was just trying to envision it, okay. Okay.
So, actually, if there's a phase 2 to this project, what I would like to do is contact the town of Sharon and say, listen, now we have a boardwalk. If we can do a crossing down here, then we can have a loop that people can follow. But that's a little ways down the road.
Anything else, Gary?
You guys have these handouts. So, one of the things I wanted to mention is the construction technique that we're going to use. We copied from the Andover Trails Committee, and we plan to use a technique using screw augers. And I thought I had a picture in here, but I may not. Hang on just for a second.
Similar to what you were suggesting
For Cobb's Pond,
for
exactly.
Cobb's Pond,
Exactly.
okay.
Thank you. So this is a schematic representation of a screw auger. And then here's a picture of one.
Use the mic.
These both live?
Yeah,
Then I think this will work better. I unfortunately left one on my kitchen table. I wanted to bring one. These are about 1 foot long, and the way this is used is we connect it to an 1.5 inch galvanized pipe, as shown here, and then we screw this in by hand. So the end result and here's some guys from Andover screwing one of these pipes in. So the end result is sort of a minimally invasive form of construction. So you screw the augers in, you have at each support area you have 2 pipes that are parallel. We have a 2x6 support piece that will support the frame itself. Okay, so now we can see here's the 2x6s, and we're starting to build on the frame of the boardwalk, the stringers. I'll show you a better picture.
So the width of the boardwalk is how wide?
The width will be 60 inches, and we have that on this drawing. So this is a stock photo that I got off the internet of a boardwalk, but it shows our treads will be 60 inches long. We're gonna have handrails built onto the side, and the railings will be on the inside of the handrails. So the finished width will be 48 inches. The handrails will be 36 inches high. And we'll have 3 of them. So
So-
in comparison to the,
So, excuse me, Garrett, it's not gonna be like that then?
no, so actually, I'm glad you showed that. That is what Andover built. That boardwalk was 1,000 feet long. It's on the Bay Circuit Trail. And what we took from them, Joe actually accompanied me and another person. We just wanted to see it. And we loved the construction technique. We loved the fact that a boardwalk like this will open up a wetland, a place that really people find very hard to access. What we weren't crazy about is the fact that theirs is only 34 inches wide, so with input from the building official, I forget his name.
Building inspector?
Dave Norton.
Dave Norton. Dave told us 60 inches. Like, okay. And
ADA compliant.
ADA requires 36 final width. So our final width will be 48 inches. We'll have plenty of space. So we didn't like how narrow theirs was, and we also didn't like the fact that their handrails were slapped on as an afterthought. Actually, what I have here is theirs as built. There's no handrails. So, we came back from Andover wanting to have a wider boardwalk with more robust handrails. So we'll definitely have that. The grant also funded in addition to the boardwalk, which will be on the order of about 194 feet long, it also funded a 20-foot by 20-foot platform that we'll use for bird watching, picnics, outdoor education, whatever.
Okay. All right, anything else, Gary?
Anything else I should say? I think that's about it.
Okay. Landis?
I will mention that I believe in the file should be 2 letters, one from the fire department, one from the police department supporting the project.
Okay.
That's correct. The originals are in here.
Okay.
And so the boardwalks are going to be constructed through the wetlands. The area where the boardwalk is going, you'll have to cut some of the vegetation.
Yep.
But they'll be high enough so that there'll be flow back and forth from the wetlands and when you cross the actual stream.
Yep. So I don't have a profile drawing, but the town forest side of the boardwalk sits at an elevation of 4 feet above the water level. So we envision 100 feet of the boardwalk, including the viewing platform, will be at a 4-foot elevation, and then the remaining 94 feet will taper down to, I think, 1.5 feet above the mean water surface.
Okay.
So it'll be a very, very gentle decline. So it'll actually be a 3-foot decline over 94 feet. It's 1/33, and ADA is 1/12. So very, very gentle slope.
Right, so this, as I put in my report as well, this qualifies as a limited project under 10.533J, construction of a boardwalk and observation deck for conservation purposes, as long as it doesn't constrict the flow of the wetlands or the stream, and it is, doesn't shade that much of the vegetation, or which could cause alteration, but it
I mean, just the 5 feet width.
right, meets the requirements of a limited project allowable under the act. And during the construction of the boardwalk, you'll do piece by piece with minimum
Yeah, I mean,
See a couple of
because it
out
is
there
a
going-
wetland, we envision using maybe pallets cut in half, just to provide a work surface, so we can screw the augers in.
And you anticipate, or you would like to do most of the work during the winter if you can, and
I
then,
was hoping to start this weekend. My dad's real sick, so I don't really know what the future holds for me. I would really, I hate working in bug season. I think I speak for Joe as well. So we're going to do as much as we can while the weather permits. Just, I certainly won't be able to start anything this weekend, and that's, for months, ever since I got the notification, this date has been circled, but now more important matters dictate my time. So
do you have to complete this within a certain amount of time under your grant?
no, I have a year,
Okay.
which brings me to August of 2018, but we're really hoping to have this done in the springtime. The original plan was to try to put the boardwalk in this fall, and then go back and do the viewing platform in the spring. Now, what I'm thinking is, because this is a new construction technique for us, we're going to be on a very steep learning curve initially. So I think we will learn so much if we can just put in, say, 3 or 4 sections, and the sections will be 12 feet each. So if we can do a few of those this fall and then wrap it up when the really cold weather comes later in December, I'd be okay with that. I think we think that's a pretty good approach.
I would think you would want to do it right, not at times where you're going to have a lot of water in the wetlands.
I know, so I know that. I
Spring,
know.
October.
I
So
really,
the winter's probably going to be the better time.
yeah. Which
The winter, yeah, probably
Yeah.
better time.
yeah. As long as it's not frozen, then
Right. Mild.
yeah, according to the Farmer's Almanac, it'll be wet but warm, or wet but mild, I think. So
Gary, you may have mentioned it, but how long is the platform?
so
How long is the,
the boardwalk will be about 194 feet. That's what
Okay.
the survey measured out.
Gotcha.
My GPS points came out to 250 feet, but my GPS has a 25 to 30 foot uncertainty.
Ah.
195 feet
That's fine.
or so.
Okay. Have you done anything at the Rockland Trust behind there at all yet?
No,
Not yet. Okay.
no.
That's fine. I know it's unrelated to this, but I just wanted to.
So actually, the scout that was going to take that project on, the boardwalk has been relocated over to the DPW yard, and he actually wants to. I found another place for him to install that in the town forest. There's a gully or a swale, perfectly suited. So we're going to repurpose his boardwalk.
Gotcha.
So it's not going to go to waste, which is nice.
Yeah, anything else, Amelia? Roger?
No, I'm waiting to walk across it.
So am I.
Yeah.
So when the time comes, we'll have announcements. I think even as we go through the construction, I'd like to send pictures to the 2 local papers, just to make people aware. I want to try to open this up to people. I want to make people aware of what's out there. It's really pretty. One of the things I wrote into the grant were some passages that come from both the master plan and the master plan amendment. And there are passages in there that refer to the desire to connect trails networks. So we have a network of trails in Jarvis Farm. We have another one in the town forest, so this is well suited for that. There's another mention of the desire to open up more natural recreational options to people. And this is a very natural area when you're out there. What this boardwalk is going to do is open it up so that people can actually enjoy it and see what's out there.
Betsy? Anything? Al?
No comments, it's gonna be really nice.
How deep is the water?
Well, The water is only about a foot or so deep until you reach the bottom of the stream. In the area that we're going to be crossing, there are deeper pockets that we've seen as you go along School Meadow Brook.
Like, is it gonna come up to your waist when you,
It went up to my
get
thigh,
it?
even though
Okay.
it was a foot and a half deep. The
and then
first
the
day I
mud,
went out
the
there,
muck and
the muck was
yeah,
mid-thigh.
Okay.
It scared the heck out of me.
That's
I mean,
what
I had my my hip boots on. I'm like, if this, breaches the hip boot, I'm gonna have, because I was out there alone that particular day. So
Well, that's what I was getting at.
there's a lot of silt.
You, well, I've done some of these kind of things, and you can't be alone.
I
Okay.
learned.
You make sure that whoever's volunteering or working, there's somebody else there as well.
Yeah.
It's too dangerous.
And so it took a while for me to free myself, but I had left my cell phone about 20 feet away. So if I got stuck, I was going to have a big problem.
That's why I asked the question. I want to make sure that you or somebody else doesn't end up with a real serious problem.
We don't want any boots left out there.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay. Was there anything else, Al?
No,
Okay. When you get, is there any issue with crossing the Algonquin?
No, actually,
line?
I spent close to 2 hours with the guy that came out to mark the pipeline. Dunn McKenzie, who did the survey, wanted the pipeline marked to use as a reference because we don't have any benchmarks anywhere out there. So I pulled a ticket through DigSafe, and I got an email from DigSafe saying Algonquin will not be coming out to map out the pipeline. But when the guy came, I said, "Would you mind marking out?" He's like, "Of course not." So I was like, he was with me for an hour. He was interested in the project. I showed him some pictures, and he's like, "This is, really interesting." A lot of times, what he does is just he responds to smells of gas or different things, and he just was pretty excited, and we had a good chat.
So is there any formal agreement you need to, where's the trail relative to the Bay State Trail relative to the pipeline?
It's the Bay Circuit is on the top of the drawing, closer to me. What you're pointing to is the Jarvis Farm side, so it's the other end. And the
Yeah.
Bay Circuit.
The north is upside down on this, right?
No, it was the first draft, but this has been corrected. So this north actually points towards Cumbies.
Yeah, north
Oh.
should be up Washington Street. And this would be,
Right, usually
this would be
the
the,
north is,
Yeah, so here's Algonquin.
Yeah.
Algonquin's in the north direction.
okay. So the Bay Circuit Trail
Here's Algonquin.
is over here, okay.
And that is kind of
Okay.
So you can add Bay Circuit Trails on this
there
side.
at this end, yeah.
Okay, but as far as connecting over here, there's no, do we need anything formally from Algonquin?
No,
that
we
says you
actually
can't
have
cross?
a letter saying that they approve.
You
it.
do, there is, so you do have
I do
something.
have that
Okay, that's
documented, yeah.
what I was getting at, okay.
And the most disturbance we'll do is right at the end. We're going to secure the boardwalk to the ground, but I showed the guy where we were going to be, and
Yeah.
that distance is on the order of 20 feet. So
Okay.
he was okay with it.
Okay. And congratulations on getting the grant.
Thank you.
Okay. Someone want to make a motion to close the hearing?
so moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain,
Thank you,
5-0-0.
You still want to do this?
yeah, wait, they're not finished yet.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay, so we need a
Alright, so it should be approved under limited project status.
You want,
What do we need?
I'm all set with that stuff.
you want
Don't need any
No.
station controls, and no construction.
Thank you.
No, Gary, just one more question. Is there gonna be a staging area? Like, are you going to be bringing in sections and having to kind of put them someplace?
What I plan to do is do the construction from the town forest side heading north.
Okay.
And what I'd like to do is maybe keep the lumber at the DPW because it's secure. And I mean, this is a detail that Joe and I haven't really talked about, but what I envision is each section, I mean, there's going to be how many sections? There's many 12-foot sections, and they're all going to be identical. So we can bundle basically all the lumber for each section, like maybe put a tie wrap around it, and then transport those one at a time. So,
But you're not gonna really need a stockpiling area where we're
not
driving
in the field. What I'm thinking is we put in the vertical supports, the pipes, and then we bring the wood over and build the frame and just sort of, you know, complete that section and then move on to the next one.
Using
that
what
all-
you put in.
Yeah, in fact, one of the
And that's
pictures.
all in the upland area, that's all in, up here, up in this
That's
area
correct, yeah,
we're talking
yeah, so from that end.
So, I mean, just if they need, I mean, it doesn't
They're
sound
not
like there's
doing
gonna
it-
be
they're not
much
doing any-
disturbance
no,
area
not
in
much,
that anyway,
yeah.
so it's, I think we're probably okay.
So,
Um,
I would, if you wanna put in a condition that, any, erosion control would be on an as-needed basis based on,
Yeah, that's a standard
consulting
boilerplate,
with the agent.
that's a boilerplate anyway, so we'll keep
Okay.
that in, so.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, they're not gonna wanna do it when the water's high anyway,
Yeah.
so I don't think you really need a condition for that. And they're gonna use, pallets or to minimize
Yeah,
alterations, so, I don't really see any other,
I would just say, any, construction details would be reviewed as you go. If you come across something, you just let us know. Review with the agent any,
there's a change.
Yeah.
changes and, adjustments in your construction, plan.
Okay. One unknown for us is that we've never used this auger technique.
All right,
But I did go out to the wetland a few weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, with a 1/2-inch copper pipe, and I drove it in until I couldn't drive it any farther. And the depth that I was able to penetrate before solid ground ranged from 4 feet to 7 feet. And I was a little bit relieved because Andover said that they went as deep as 25 feet to hit solid ground. So we're like, that's
But
a lot.
wasn't that out into a bog or something? Is
Yeah,
that Andover one go into a bog?
there's a name for that.
Yeah, because I've been on that one. So, yeah, you don't have a bog.
But yeah, I think the name where that one's located is such, maybe the Mary French Bog
Uh-huh.
or something like that. It may not be that one, but
okay,
All right,
so you just keep it so that if something comes up, you let Landis
Yep.
know, so she can review it and see
Yeah.
if something needs to be done, just so, we don't run afoul of anybody wondering why you're able to do what you happen
Yeah.
to need to do.
or a muck. You don't wanna run amok.
we'll be in the muck, but we don't want to run.
Not amok.
Run through there.
Okay,
Pun's not intended.
so I need a vote.
So, someone make that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Good.
Great, okay.
Thank you.
So your separate subject. You're tied up this weekend, is what you're saying.
For the next few until,
Probably will, okay,
until I get some bad news.
okay. Yeah, sorry to hear about that. We were
Came on
doing,
pretty quickly.
we were doing some work up at Adams Farm and just wondering if you were around.
Do you have a trailer yet? I'll let you use my trailer.
No,
Oh,
I
no.
don't, no, and I don't, and Scott doesn't.
Okay.
We'll continue as we've been. Okay, thanks, Gary.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, also, your compatriot, forget his name, did a nice job Monday night at the,
Glenn,
at the Bay State Trail presentation.
he,
Um,
I had to call on him sort of last minute, and, I said, there's gonna be a couple overheads, all you need to do is basically introduce Dan.
Yeah.
And, that afternoon, a few hours before the talk, he sent me an email with a few paragraphs of introduction,
Yeah.
like, wow, this is really good.
Yeah.
So that Dan, the speaker, said that Glenn did a great job.
Yeah, no, he did well, and the program was nice, and Al got special mention for,
As he should.
for the, setting up the, originally located Bay State Trail in Walpole.
Was it Al French at the
Yes.
presentation? He was, really?
Yes,
Geez,
Yep.
that's great.
and he's from Andover, I think he
Yeah,
said.
he is.
So he
Well,
came
that
down.
blog you're talking about is named after his wife, I think.
See, I'm not sure, there is a Mary French blog,
Yeah.
and, I'm not sure that that was in that blog, because they have a couple of these boardwalks up there. And the other one, I'm just drawing a blank. So it could be the Mary, I don't think it's the Mary French, I think it's a different one, where the 1,000-foot boardwalk is.
It was interesting anyhow, so that,
Good, and I really wanted to be there. Did it show me?
yeah,
With my
you got your
presentation.
picture, you had your picture of the, was the Trail Committee T-shirt, your red T-shirt, and then you did a pirouette and spun around, so we got the front view, and you
Yeah,
said,
my wife made a few of those up on Christmas.
you said a few words, and you got mention of all the work you're doing, and there, your thanks to you for all your effort.
Yeah, Dan's a great guy.
Yeah, Al's picture showed up once quickly on there, but they mentioned Al several times on doing that. But I guess on their website, there's more about Walpole, so you get more, Al gets more time on that, apparently.
Okay.
So, but hey, it was good. And thank you for all your effort on the trails. Okay, what else we got here?
I think there's just the minutes left over.
You have an enforcement order.
Oh, it's not an enforcement
Oh.
order, it's just a notice of non-compliance.
Oh, non-compliance.
That's right, I forgot about that. So that's Boyden Estates off of Summer Street, that they put in the road, they put in
Is that
the
way down in South Walpole?
basin,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I know where you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they did a bunch of clearing, but they haven't really done the lots yet. There's an order for the subdivision of the road, and then there's order for all the individual lots, and, so I've been pretty much consistently telling him he needs to clean things up, and he hadn't been doing it, so I, again, put it in writing after that really heavy rainstorm that we had when I went out there, and there was, definitely, that he didn't have the silt sacks in, and it was a mess. So, I haven't had a chance to go out, but apparently today the silt socks are in, and there's additional erosion control, and there's some check dams going down the slope. And things are being cleaned up, so I'll go out there tomorrow to check to see how it's done. He still needs some temporary stabilization, because he didn't get to he didn't get any permanent stabilization, and he was gonna hydro seed, but he hadn't done it yet, so he needs to have some kind of mats or something to take it through the winter, cause there's quite a slope that goes down.
You going tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll go tomorrow, yeah.
You got time?
No. Do you want a time?
Yeah, I'll go along with you.
Okay,
Yeah.
what's good for you? I don't think I have anything specific for tomorrow.
Anything.
10
whatever.
o'clock?
Hmm?
10 o'clock?
10 at,
Want
Down
me to be
there
there
at
at 10
10?
o'clock?
yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, and we take a look at the replication area. I mean, one thing I noticed during the replication area, and I did review the plan, there's supposed to be a kind of almost like a berm that it looked like the flow was just moving through the wetlands, through the replication area, and then hopping over the bank of the replication area and going down the cul-de-sac. So, shouldn't be doing that. Shouldn't be doing that.
Okay. All right,
10 o'clock, 10 a.m.
you got,
And then the other notice of noncompliance that I did send out was to Industrial Road. It's under correspondence because I didn't get it on the agenda in time. 28 Industrial Road, notice of noncompliance. That's way down at the end next to Hale Trailer. There is a loam sorting operation way back there, and then sort of a car place. And I've been keeping an eye on it, and there just seems to be consistently more and more silt running off the site. They really need to do something. It's coming off the entrance, but more of it's coming at the corner of the lot, so they need to address it. So I sent them out a letter, and I'll also go out to the site. I like to send a letter to the owner first, and if I don't get a response, I'll just have to go out to the site and talk to whoever's out there.
okay.
Hear more about that in the future. Have not heard anything from 1900 Main Street. We're waiting for their fence and signs. Lincoln Road, they're fine for now. I'm gonna take a look again at spring, but the area that was disturbed that has remained in a stable condition. So that's that.
Okay, anybody have anything else?
Why don't we have a secretary?
She had a obligation she had tonight that she couldn't cancel.
I know those things happen, but
Minutes, anybody read them? I haven't read them.
So we'll do them next
I
time.
haven't read them yet either.
All right, so put them on for next time.
Okay.
And just, might make a reminder that they weren't sent out.
Yep. I know that the minutes were done, and then I looked at them, and there's a couple things that really need to be changed, and she did change those, so maybe she just didn't send it out after that, I'm not sure.
Those are the ones you did, right?
Well, I took some notes, and then she did go and look at the video afterwards.
Oh, okay,
Oh.
'cause that's right, she wasn't there last
She wasn't
meeting.
here at the
not.
last one, right?
But, okay.
Okay, so she actually put them together then, okay. All right, nobody has anything else? Anybody wanna leave?
Sure.
You wanna make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Okay. Can you shut us down?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay?
500. We're voted.